Oh boy, so yesterday was Independence Day in the United States. And so today I can tell you that most spiritual centers, most churches are talking about something like freedom and choice and independence and patriotism. In fact, if I were still in Southern California, I would be weaving that theme into my talk as well. But depending on which spiritual center or church it is, the message is going to be very, very different. In the conservative places, the message is going to be all about patriotism and the whole very God bless America stuff, right? Yeah. In more progressive centers and places of worship, there's going to be talk about freedom, but it's going to be freedom of choice. It's going to be freedom of religion. It's going to be independence from negativity and things that don't serve us any longer. And the people who are in attendance at whatever place it is that they're in attendance are likely going to be agreeing with the speaker and with each other. There's going to be a lot of nodding going on. There's going to be a lot of amen brothers going on, right? In other words, wherever it is that people are choosing to be, they are hearing, seeing, and experiencing what they want to hear, see, and experience. And that's kind of the basis of my talk today, and that is, what are you looking for? Because whatever it is that you're looking for, you're going to find it. Anai Nin said this: we don't see things as they are, we see them as we are. We don't see things as they are, we see things as we are. So let me tell you why I chose this topic for today. Unless you have been completely away from the news or social media or general conversation, you know that something rather monumental happened in the U.S. last week. The Supreme Court determined that same-sex couples could legally be married in all 50 states. Big news here in progressive Canada, where it's been going on for a few years, right? But let me tell you, it was huge news in the States, and apparently all over the world too, thanks to social media sites like Facebook and Twitter. On Facebook alone, millions of people put rainbows on their profile pictures in support and in celebration. It was a phenomenon. So for the 2 days after this determination by the Supreme Court, my Facebook page, I'm a very Facebook person. I love it. It's like show and tell for grown-ups, you know? I just love it. So for the days after this, my Facebook feed was filled with joyous and happy people, both gay and straight people, celebrating this landmark decision. It was hashtag love wins. And everybody was so happy. Or so I thought. Because a couple days later, a friend of mine posted something along the lines of, I am so tired of hearing and reading all the anger and the negativity and the meanness from people regarding this determination, this decision. Why can't they just be happy that people in love can get married? And I was like, what? There are people who are unhappy with this decision? There are people who are writing angry and mean things? I haven't seen any. So I went back and I checked my news feed. If you know Facebook, you know what I'm talking about, right? And sure enough, all I saw was rainbows and joy and celebration. And then it hit me. I have really cool, open-minded Facebook friends. And it's actually more than that. Because the truth is, I consciously choose to see the world as a happy, friendly, and joyful place most of the time. So that's how the world looks to me most of the time. And as a result, it is the kind of people that I attract and the kind of people that I'm attracted to. Again, as a 9-in said, we don't see things as they are, we see things as we are. Another way of putting it is that we find what we are looking for, and we find what we are looking with. Right on. For instance, if you are looking at the world with the eyes of upset and anger and hatred, then you're going to find lots of evidence to support being upset and angry and hateful. On the other hand, if you see the world as being a friendly and supportive, loving place, then that is what you are going to find. Because here's the truth, we are all looking at the same thing. And we are drawing different conclusions and we are having different experiences, but we are looking at the same thing. In fact, the reason for this is kind of Science of Mind. Incidentally, we have a brand new Science of Mind class that's going to be starting in September called Foundations. I've never taught it before, but it's going to be like a basic class. I'm on a tangent right now, but I just want to let you all know that it's starting in September. Okay. Because this is pure Science of Mind. What I'm teaching you right now, each one of us is an amalgam of the beliefs and the thoughts and the experiences and the filters and the assumptions and the memories that we have had in our lives. In fact, this is really scary. Everything that we have ever heard, said, experienced, or thought, or seen is stored in our subconscious minds, in the hard drive of our computers. Everything. We may not have conscious recall of it, but it is there. It's running in the background all of the time. And those thoughts and those experiences and those memories help make up who we are and how we see the world. So that means that each one of us has a different way of viewing life according to our beliefs and our thoughts and our memories. And we are convinced, because of our beliefs and thoughts and memories, we're convinced that life is like that, and so guess what? It is. Marcus Aurelius wrote this: everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth. Everybody go like this. So there is a wonderful teaching story. I am sure that you've heard it. It's been attributed to just about every wisdom teaching of the East, from Buddhism to Jainism to the Sufis to the Hindus. Doesn't matter who it belongs to, it illustrates my point beautifully. And it's the story of the blind man and the elephant. Once upon a time, there lived 6 blind men in a village. One day the villagers told them, hey, there's an elephant in the village today. Well, they had no idea what an elephant was, so they decided that even if they couldn't see the elephant, they could go feel it anyway. All of them went to where the elephant was, and each one of it touched it. And the first man who touched the elephant's leg said, hey, this elephant is like a mighty and great tree. Oh no, it's like a rope, said the second man who touched the tail. Oh no, you're crazy, it's a serpent, said the third man who touched the trunk of the elephant. Oh no, it's like a big hand fan, said the fourth man who was touching the ear of the elephant. It is like a huge wall, said the man rubbing the belly of the elephant. The sixth man touched the tusk of the elephant and said, no, it's like a spear. So they began to argue about the elephant, and every one of them insisted that he was right. Then a wise-sighted man came by and heard the argument and asked, what's the matter? And they said, we cannot agree as to what an elephant is like. Each one of them told the man what he thought. And the wise man calmly explained to them, all of you is right. The reason every one of you is telling it differently is because each one of you touched a different part of the elephant. So actually, it is all of those features. Oh, said the blind men. And they didn't fight anymore because they were happy that they were right. Now, every man in this story was convinced that he was seeing correctly. And no amount of talking could convince him otherwise. And yet what we know from the story is that none of these men had the full picture. They were only experiencing it from their limited viewpoint and drawing their conclusions based on their viewpoint. In other words, they found what they were looking for, and with. By the way, I recognize the irony of me telling a story about blind men and talking about what it is that you're looking for. I get that, but the analogy still works, right? So this story was translated into a poem written by John Godfrey Saxe in the 1800s. He was traveling around India and he heard the story and he wrote it into a poem. And the final stanza of the poem is, "And so these men without sight disputed loud and long, each in his own opinion exceedingly stiff and strong, though each was partly in the right and all were in the wrong." And you see how the elephant has been thus described. Arthur Schopenhauer wrote this: "Every man takes the limits of his own field of vision for the limits of the world." Every man takes the limits of his own field of vision for the limits of the world. So this brings up another aspect of this idea that I wanted to talk about today, and that is that even though we may disagree mightily, like I did with the people who were upset about the Supreme Court decision, I need to respect their right to their opinion. I mean, look at all the wars that have been fought because people had different opinions about things. And they were unwilling or unable to see that their fellow human being might be just as invested, just as committed to their point of view. How would the world be if everyone just allowed people to have their viewpoint and to have their opinion and just accepted it as another way of seeing life, as another part of the elephant? Not right, not wrong, but different, according to their thoughts and their beliefs. That's the world I want to live in. How about you? Where everybody just got along, right? And I believe it's coming, but we may not be there yet. We maybe need to be doing a little bit more work on this, so that's where we come up with, what is the spiritual message here? What is the metaphysical message? Let me tell you, some people, when I use the word metaphysics, don't know what I mean by it. Take my class. Did I mention there's a class starting in September on foundations? Metaphysical means beyond the physical. Meta means beyond, above, the physical. The physical of our five senses. Metaphysical means going beyond that, to the other aspects of seeing the world and experiencing the world. Well, so first of all, I want to tell you, you all know this. I'm preaching to the choir here. Everything is spiritual first. Everything is spiritual first. Because God, or whatever you want to choose to call that life force energy, is all there is. And here on earth, one of the ways that the life force energy is experiencing itself is through us. And as us, just like Mara's reading today. We are expressions of the divine. Think about the enormity of that. You are God in expression. I am God in expression, and the person that you don't agree with is also God in expression. Take a deep breath. And part of our earthly experience includes living a life of choice. We are spiritual beings having a human experience, and part of that human experience is living a life of choice, because we get to choose how we're going to see the world. And because of this indisputable law of cause and effect that I'm always talking about, then what we are looking for, what we choose, we are going to find. Now, not everybody knows that, you know. There are still people who are living in the world of victimness. The world is out to get me. Life is so unfair. You know anybody? You aren't that person, but you might know that person. And again, if they're thinking I'm a victim, the world is out to get me, everything's wrong, then under the guise of it is done unto you as you believe, guess what? Life does indeed show up as unfair and unjust. And yet, as we begin to understand how all of this works, we can consciously choose, on purpose choose, to lift our thoughts up out of victimhood, out of anger, and see life as it really is, not as our limited view is telling us it is. Because the truth is, folks, the truth is that life is beautiful. It is orderly. It is dynamic. It is balanced. It is intelligent. It is loving. And if we don't see it as such, it's because we are not looking for it. We aren't doing what we need to do to raise our thoughts up, to see that higher picture, to see the whole. I was going to mix metaphors, the whole enchilada, the whole elephant. Just like that allegory about the blind men and the elephant, they were only experiencing what their limitations were. Had they been able to rise above to see the whole animal, they would have had a completely different idea of what it looked like. But from their limited thinking, every one of them was absolutely correct. The one who touched the tusk, it was a spear. To the one who touched the ear, it was a fan. They were correct, even though it wasn't true. True with a capital T. You know what I mean by that, right? With a capital T. The same thing is true for us. That when we see the world through our limitations, that's what we're going to find. So it's our job as growing and evolving humans is to experience our greater truth with a capital T, and to continue to strive to rise above, to see things from that higher perspective, from that more expanded view. Because conscious, higher thoughts will always raise up lower thoughts. Higher vibration thinking will always raise lower vibration thinking. Water seeks its own level. Always. Here's what Ernest Holmes said about it. He said, spiritual illumination is the inner capacity in men to perceive a divine idea and to assimilate it into his consciousness. Any idea assimilated into consciousness must then express in man's experience. So as students of life, each and every day, we choose to work to assimilate and to embody the truth of what we want to see in life, which is beauty and light and order and balance and love. Because, as the saying goes, you will find what you're looking for. Happy stampeding. I love you, and so it is.